It began as nothing more than a whisper, a name none of the wives had ever heard before. A name that didn't belong in their world. And yet, within weeks, it would detonate their lives like dynamite tossed into a powder keg. Her name was Serena. She was in her late 20s, with smooth black hair, piercing eyes, and a carefully curated social media presence that boasted tens of thousands of followers.
Wellness retreats,
Yoga studios, spiritual rebirth, the kind of life that looked serene on the surface and suspicious beneath it. Christine was the first to feel that something was wrong. It wasn't a feeling at first, it was a number. $7,400 missing from the family real estate account. The transaction was labeled vaguely, wellness retreat. It didn't sit right with her, but she said nothing.
Not yet.
Later that night, scrolling through Instagram, Christine froze. There it was, a post from a yoga studio in Sedona. Serena stood in a flowing white robe, glowing, peaceful. And beside her was a man whose curls Christine knew too well.
Kody.
Her stomach dropped. She scrolled faster. Another photo. His arm around Serena's back. A short video clip. Too intimate, too familiar, deleted moments too late. Christine felt the room spin. The truth hit her all at once. She didn't cry. She got in her car. Christine drove quietly to Janelle's house and laid the screenshots on the table without saying a word. Janelle didn't need explanation. She just stared, jaw tight, eyes darkening with recognition. Then Mary called. She had received a hotel confirmation. Kody and a woman. One room. One bed. Across town, Robin was having her own reckoning. She had noticed a strange perfume on Kody's clothes. Not hers. An elongated blonde hair clinging to his jacket. And then in the truck, something that stopped her cold, a velvet ring box. Inside, engraved in delicate script, were the words, "To my moon, forever." That evening, Robin arrived at Christine's house holding the box. No words.
No cameras.
Just four women standing in silence as a storm gathered between them. What followed was not chaos, but clarity. Janelle contacted an accountant. Within hours, the dining table was buried beneath financial records. Wire transfers to Serena's accounts. Luxury travel expenses. Boutique charges. Even an invoice from a wedding planner. Christine reached out to a friend in Sedona who uncovered something far worse, a secretly filed marriage license between Kody Brown and Serena Walker. It had been signed with a falsified witness signature. Robin Brown. This was no longer betrayal. This was a crime. The following morning, the four women walked into a law office carrying evidence and rage in equal measure. Christine had the photos. Janelle had the bank statements. Mary had the recordings. Robin had the ring and the forged signature. "We want to sue," Mary said flatly. "For fraud. For identity misuse. For deception." The attorneys worked around the clock. Within 2 days, the case was assembled. 5 counts of financial fraud, 2 counts of identity misuse, emotional abuse, and violations tied to polygamy-related financial law. Christine filed first. Janelle followed. Mary signed next. Robin signed last, betrayed more deeply than anyone. When the news broke, the internet erupted.
Rede exploded.
Headlines screamed about Kody Brown's secret fifth wife. The story trended worldwide. Kody said nothing.
No denial. No apology.
Because by then, Serena knew the truth too. The lawsuit was served at dawn on the porch of Kody's Flagstaff home, while he was still sipping coffee with Serena. He opened the envelope and went pale. The charges screamed from the page: fraud, identity misuse, misappropriation of funds. Cameras descended instantly. Protest signs appeared. Justice for the sister wives.
Courtroom.
Inside the courthouse, an all-female legal team, known as the Desert Law Queens, prepared their case. Boxes of evidence lined the walls. Emails, wire transfers, LLC paperwork, marriage licenses, even a wedding registry labeled Serena and Kody's new life. The courtroom was packed when the first day began. TLC declined to film, but CNN, TMZ, and dozens of outlets live-tweeted every moment. Christine entered first in a navy suit, eyes forward, unshaken. Janelle followed, files under her arm. Mary walked tall, scanning the room. Robin arrived last, alone, in dark sunglasses. When the judge entered, the room shifted. This was no family squabble. This was a high-stakes civil case with criminal implications. Christine testified first.
Calm. Precise.
She spoke of emotional exploitation, of money siphoned away from children's futures to fund secret vacations and hidden properties. The judge listened intently, pen scratching across paper. Janelle followed, dismantling the financial structure piece by piece. She revealed how Kody used the family LLC to fund Serena's spa startup, disguised as legacy investments, without documentation. Emails surfaced showing Kody instructing her to hide expenses under tax-deductible labels. The judge ordered a forensic audit immediately. Mary's testimony cut deepest. She read from journals describing years of emotional abandonment. 6 years without touch. Promises of healing while Kody planned a wedding behind her back. Then came the bombshell. Kody had accessed her personal email to reroute TLC residuals into a fake entity traced to Serena. Gasps filled the courtroom. Then Robin took the stand. Holding the velvet ring box, she said quietly, "This was never for me." She revealed that her digital signature had been forged on the marriage application. A handwriting expert confirmed it within hours. Potential criminal charges loomed. By day's end, the judge froze all Brown family LLC accounts, Kody's properties, and his TLC income. Serena was subpoenaed as a material witness. Hashtags trended worldwide. Hashtag Kody on trial. Hashtag wife strike. Week 2 was even darker. Christine broke only once, when questioned about rumors of Serena's pregnancy. Kody wasn't just lying. He was starting a new family, while legally entangled in theirs. Janelle read aloud an email Kody sent Serena. "Once the money is transferred, we can move to Utah and never look back. The wives will survive." The judge ordered it read again. Mary followed with one final journal entry. "I used to pray for him. Now I pray to forget him." Then came the surprise witness, a private investigator. Footage played on a projector. Kody introducing Serena as his legal wife to real estate agents. Voicemails instructing secrecy. Burner phones. Lies stacked upon lies. Kody's attorney requested a recess. The judge denied it. "Mr. Brown," he said coldly, "you are not in charge here anymore." And in that moment, it was clear. This wasn't just the collapse of a marriage. It was the unraveling of a man who believed he would never be held accountable. The judge's words lingered in the courtroom like smoke after an explosion. "Mr. Brown, you are not in charge here anymore." Kody froze. His pen slipped from his fingers and clattered against the defense table, the sound far louder than it should have been. For the first time since the trial began, his confidence, once unshakable, fractured in full view of the court. The gallery buzzed with whispers. Reporters leaned forward. Even the bailiff shifted uneasily. The judge ordered the surprise evidence entered into the record. The private investigator remained on the stand, detailing 6 weeks of surveillance that mapped Kody's financial deception with chilling precision. Burner phones registered under false names. Shell companies opened across state lines. Properties negotiated under the phrase, "my legal wife," spoken not once, but repeatedly, always referring to Serena. Each clip was time-stamped. Each transaction verified. And with every piece presented, the defense's story collapsed further. Kody's attorney attempted damage control, claiming misinterpretation, misunderstanding, and emotional bias. The judge wasn't buying it. "These are not misunderstandings," he said sharply. "These are patterns." When the court reconvened after lunch, the mood had shifted entirely. What began as a civil lawsuit was now teetering on the edge of criminal prosecution. The prosecution called the forensic accountant next. Projected onto a massive screen was a financial web so complex it looked almost intentional in its confusion. Arrows crossed. Accounts branched. Funds moved from the Brown family LLC into temporary holding entities, then into Serena's personal accounts, then into real estate investments in California and Utah. This, the accountant stated plainly, is not poor bookkeeping. This is laundering. The word landed like a thunderclap. Murmurs swept the room. Kody stared straight ahead, jaw clenched, eyes unblinking. The accountant continued. Over $1. 9 million had been diverted over 3 years. Not for family expenses. Not for children. But for Serena's lifestyle, luxury retreats, property deposits, a business registered under Wellspring Incorporated, an entity traced back to Kody using a burner email. The judge leaned forward. And did any of the plaintiffs authorize these transactions? No, Your Honor. The courtroom fell silent. Then came Serena. She entered the courthouse flanked by legal counsel, no longer the glowing wellness influencer. Her eyes were red, her posture stiff. Cameras followed her every step. On the stand, she tried to maintain composure. She testified that Kody had told her he was divorced in all but name, that the wives knew, that the marriage was symbolic. Then the prosecution played the footage. Kody, on video, whispering, "They can never know." Serena's face drained of color. She broke down under cross-examination, admitting that Kody controlled the finances, the narrative, even the paperwork. She revealed he insisted on secrecy for the brand and promised protection if anything went wrong. That protection never came. By the end of her testimony, it was clear Serena wasn't the mastermind. She was collateral damage. The judge ordered a recess. Outside, chaos erupted. Headlines shifted instantly. Not just a cheater, a con artist. Sister wives' case turns criminal. Federal charges loom for reality TV patriarch. Inside chambers, prosecutors met with state officials. When court resumed, the judge made an announcement that sealed Kody's fate. Based on evidence presented, the court was referring the case to the state attorney's office for potential criminal charges, including identity theft, document forgery, and financial fraud. Kody's attorney objected.
Denied.
The judge then turned to the 4 women seated together. "You are no longer just plaintiffs," he said. "You are protected witnesses." The courtroom erupted. Kody slumped back in his chair. His empire, financial, emotional, and public, was in freefall. As the day ended, the judge issued additional orders: full financial restitution pending trial outcome, seizure of properties linked to fraudulent purchases, and a restraining order preventing Kody from contacting any of the women outside of legal counsel. That night, Kody's Flagstaff home went dark. By morning, his TLC contracts were suspended. Sponsors vanished. Statements were pulled. The network released a single line: "We are monitoring the situation closely." But the wives didn't speak to the press. They didn't need to. Their silence said everything. The following week, court resumed for what many believed would be the final chapter. Kody arrived late, disheveled, alone.
No Serena. No entourage.
Just a man stripped of control. Christine took the stand one final time, not in anger, not in pain, but in clarity. This wasn't about another woman, she said. It was about power. And today, that power is gone. Janelle followed, asking the court for something simple: accountability. Mary asked for peace. Robin asked for her name back. The judge listened. And when he finally spoke, his ruling echoed beyond the courtroom walls. Trust was abused. Laws were broken. And consequences will follow. The gavel fell. Outside, the women stepped into daylight together. Cameras flashed, but they didn't look back. For the first time in decades, they weren't wives. They were free. And Kody Brown? He remained inside, alone, facing a future he never planned for. The dynamic inside the courtroom shifted completely. Even the most objective observers could now see this was no longer a soap opera fueled by jealousy or wounded pride. This was a man unraveling beneath the crushing weight of his own dishonesty. The illusion had collapsed. What remained was exposure. That moment came to a head when Kody Brown himself was called to the stand. Under oath. Surrounded by attorneys. Trapped by evidence. His posture was guarded, his jaw tight, but the arrogance that had defined him for years still flickered beneath the surface. He believed, perhaps desperately, that he could talk his way out of this, the same way he always had. The prosecution wasted no time. Did you or did you not forge Robin Brown's signature on the legal marriage license submitted to the state of Nevada? The courtroom went silent. Kody stared straight ahead. 6 seconds passed. An eternity in a courtroom. I don't remember, he finally said. The response detonated. The prosecutor slammed a printed exhibit onto the table, side-by-side images of the forged signature and Robin's authentic one. The line curves. The pressure points. The unmistakable match. Then came the financial question. Did you create Wellspring Incorporated as a shell company to siphon personal funds through the Brown Family LLC? Kody shrugged. It was a placeholder business. The judge leaned forward, visibly unimpressed. Then why, he asked sharply, did that placeholder business receive over $118,000 in TLC royalty checks in less than 12 months? The number echoed through the courtroom. Kody's face drained of color. From the gallery, his former wives reacted, not with tears, but with audible disbelief that curdled into visible disgust. The man they once trusted was being dismantled in real time. And just as Kody seemed to search for a way to recover, the judge allowed a rare and devastating move. A joint statement. The attorney for the 4 women stood and read aloud. We gave him our youth, our faith, our trust, and our children. He gave us lies, financial destruction, and emotional devastation. The gallery inhaled as one. A standing gasp rippled through the room. The judge called an immediate 10-minute recess, during which the prosecution filed an emergency motion requesting all evidence related to forged documents and financial impropriety be referred directly to the Flagstaff District Attorney for criminal investigation. That was the moment everything changed. This was no longer a civil trial about damages. This was a man staring down real jail time. When the courtroom doors reopened, Serena appeared unexpectedly, unprepared, shaken, and no longer aligned with Kody. Minutes earlier, she had submitted a signed affidavit to the court. In it, she stated she learned about the existence of the other wives only 3 weeks after her wedding. When she confronted Kody, she said, he dismissed them entirely. They're just holding on to the past. Serena didn't stop there. She presented text messages, voice memos, financial screenshots, evidence of Kody's manipulation, one message standing out above all others. If this ever comes out, they'll crucify me on TV. The judge leaned forward slowly. Mr. Brown, he said coldly, it appears the crucifixion has already commenced. As court recessed for the day, motions piled up, requests to freeze Kody's personal assets, to subpoena communications with TLC, to secure all remaining financial records. Outside, the media waited in waves, hoping to glimpse the man who once ruled a televised family empire and was now watching it collapse from the inside out. Session 4 began under a suffocating weight. The air felt heavier, thicker, like everyone in the room sensed the end was approaching but couldn't look away. For the first time in the entire trial, Kody entered alone.
No Serena.
No legal pads. No manufactured confidence. He sat at the defense table, lips pressed thin, eyes vacant, finally understanding that the empire he built on charm, chaos, and control had turned to rubble beneath his feet. This was his moment to speak. Not to manipulate, not to deflect, but to defend himself under oath. When he rose and approached the witness stand, even the reporters stopped typing. The judge asked him to raise his hand. Kody hesitated, just a fraction too long. The words "tell the truth" seemed to stick in his throat. But he swore in. His attorney began gently, framing him as emotionally overwhelmed, misunderstood, led by his heart rather than malice. I didn't intend to hurt anyone, Kody said. I just followed my heart. Christine snorted audibly from the gallery. Robin rolled her eyes. Janelle leaned forward, daring him to continue. And he did. When questioned again about the forged signature, Kody launched into a rambling explanation about family bureaucracy and spiritual marriages, claiming he didn't believe the signature mattered legally. The courtroom bristled. The judge cut him off. Are you saying you forged her signature? Kody exhaled sharply. I thought it was harmless. The silence that followed was electric. Whispers erupted. Reporters typed furiously. The district attorney's aide leaned in, whispering urgently. The judge ordered Kody's words entered verbatim into the record. Then came cross-examination. The prosecution did not ease in. They displayed text messages sent to Serena. Don't worry. Robin's signature won't raise issues. She signs everything I put in front of her. The contradiction was devastating. Premeditation established. When Kody tried to dismiss it as sarcasm, the prosecutor struck hard. So your finances, your marriages, and your legal documents are all jokes? Kody's hands began to shake. No answer came. Only silence. Then the final blow. Never before seen TLC footage played. Off camera, unfiltered. Kody sang to a producer, I control everything. I have to keep them in line. Gasps filled the room. The mask was gone. This was no longer denial. It was confession. The judge described the clip as chilling and asked the question that hung over the entire trial. Was this love, or was this control? Kody stared at the floor. Maybe both, he whispered. That admission broke something. Even the security guard turned away. The prosecution wasn't finished. 2 adult children took the stand. One daughter said quietly, he loved the cameras more than us. One son broke down, saying, he used to tell us our moms were dramatic whenever they cried. The judge stopped writing. She simply watched. The prosecution closed with a final exhibit, a private journal seized from Kody's truck. One sentence, written in his own hand. As long as they don't unite, I'll always have the advantage. The courtroom stood in silence. The myth of the perfect polygamist family had been crushed. And nothing, not money, not fame, not control, could bring it back. And as Kody sat alone at the witness stand, no one approached him. Not his lawyer. Not Serena. Not even a sympathetic glance from the gallery. He looked out across the courtroom and, for the first time, there was nothing left to command. No authority.
No waves.
No influence. And soon no freedom. The man who once thrived on control now sat exposed, isolated, powerless, and utterly abandoned. The courtroom was filled to capacity when the final day of testimony began. Not a single seat empty. Not a single phone untouched. Reporters, former fans, legal analysts, and distant family members packed every inch of the room to witness what could only be described as the public collapse of a man once portrayed as the patriarch of a proud plural family. Now, he stood revealed as something far darker, a manipulator whose legacy was built on deception. When the judge re-entered the courtroom after nearly 24 hours of deliberation, the silence was suffocating. It felt as though the walls themselves were holding their breath, waiting to see whether justice would finally bring closure to a decade-long saga of loyalty, betrayal, and faith used as camouflage. The judge carried a stack of files under her arm. Reading glasses rested just above her stern eyes. She scanned the room slowly before clearing her throat. This has been, without question, she began, one of the most emotionally complex and legally layered cases this court has ever presided over. Movement froze instantly. Serena sat rigid in the back row, nervously tapping her nails together. Robin wiped away a tear before it could fall. Kody sat beside his attorney, now visibly withdrawn, his eyes fixed downward, no longer pretending to control the moment. The judge began reading the findings, one charge at a time. Fraudulent use of shared LLC funds. Proven identity forgery beyond reasonable doubt. Financial abuse through undisclosed redirection of shared assets. Emotional coercion via spiritual manipulation. Not illegal by statute, she noted, but morally reprehensible by every standard of equity and justice. Each charge echoed through the room like a tolling bell. With every finding, Kody shrank further into his seat. The back of his neck flushed red as camera crews outside scrambled to prepare breaking headlines in real time. But the judge wasn't finished. She shifted her focus, not to the defendant, but to the 4 women seated together. This court recognizes, she said slowly, that these women did not only suffer monetary loss. They endured the systematic erosion of autonomy, self-worth, and trust under a doctrine used to justify deceit. She looked directly at Christine, Janelle, Mary, and Robin. "You are not merely claimants in a civil case," she said. "You are survivors of emotional warfare." Christine reached for Robin's hand beneath the table. Even Mary, stoic until now, closed her eyes as a single tear slid down her cheek. Janelle nodded softly, as if finally hearing what had gone unacknowledged for years. Then came the words no one expected. In addition to the civil findings, the judge continued, "This court is forwarding all relevant evidence for criminal review." The room erupted into whispers. The judge cited willful document falsification, unlawful misrepresentation of marital status across state lines, and potential tax fraud. This was no longer just a loss. It was legal freefall. TLC executives were seen texting beneath desks. Reporters leaned forward. Analysts exchanged stunned glances. This wasn't damage control anymore. This was collapse. Then the judge raised her gavel. "Mr. Brown," she said firmly, "in light of this court's conclusions, and with full cooperation from the Flagstaff District Attorney, you are hereby remanded into custody pending formal criminal charges." The gavel struck wood. The sound was deafening. The gasp that followed ripped through the gallery like a blade. The bailiff stepped forward and asked Kody to stand. For a brief, painful second, he didn't move. His eyes darted across the room, searching, hoping, waiting, for a hand to rise, for a voice to defend him, for anyone to save him. No one did. Not his attorney. Not Serena. Not the wives. Not even Robin. When the cuffs closed around his wrists, the sound was unmistakable, metal sealing the end of a carefully crafted illusion. The judge spoke one final time. "This case is not about the legality of plural marriage," she said. "It is about illegal actions committed under the guise of spiritual leadership." The courtroom doors swung open. Camera flashes exploded like fireworks as Kody Brown, once the symbol of family harmony, was escorted out not as a husband, not as a television figure, but as a man accused, exposed, and finally held accountable. Outside, protesters and supporters crowded the courthouse steps, holding signs that read "Protect the Wives," "Truth Wins," and "No More Silence." Inside, the four women remained seated for a moment after adjournment, letting it land. Then they rose, Christine hugging Mary, Janelle resting a hand on Robin's shoulder. No longer shattered wives, but women who had endured the fire and emerged, if not unblemished, then unbroken. They exited through a side door, declining interviews, walking together like warriors leaving the battlefield. As they passed, the court clerk whispered to a colleague, "This is history." She was right. What happened in that courtroom was more than a verdict. It was the dismantling of control, the restoration of truth, and the final rewriting of a family story that had been told for too long by one voice and now belonged entirely to the women who dared to speak. The transcripts chronicle the stunning downfall of a man once portrayed as the confident patriarch of a plural family and the long-overdue reckoning faced by the women who lived under his control. What began as a quiet financial dispute slowly unraveled into one of the most emotionally charged and legally significant cases the Flagstaff court had ever seen. For years, Kody Brown maintained power through a carefully crafted image of spiritual leadership, unity, and authority. Behind the scenes, however, testimony revealed a far darker reality. Shared family LLC funds were systematically redirected without disclosure. Documents were altered, identities forged, and marital statuses misrepresented across state lines. What appeared outwardly as religious devotion was exposed in court as a mechanism for control, manipulation, and financial exploitation. As the trial progressed, forensic accountants, legal analysts, and former insiders laid out a paper trail that was impossible to deny. Bank transfers, property records, and falsified signatures painted a picture of deliberate deception, oral marriage, but about illegal actions committed under the cover of spiritual leadership. With that, Kody was escorted out, not as a television personality or family leader, but as a man accused, exposed, and held accountable. Outside the courthouse, crowds gathered, some in protest, others in solidarity with the wives, holding signs demanding truth, justice, and an end to silence. Inside, the women remained seated for a moment, allowing the weight of the verdict to settle. When they finally stood, they did so together. No longer fractured or submissive, but united by survival and strength. As they exited through a side door, declining interviews, a court clerk quietly remarked, "This is history." And it was. The proceedings did more than settle a legal dispute. They dismantled a system of control, validated years of silent suffering, and rewrote a family narrative that had long been dominated by one voice. In the end, the final chapter belonged not to the man who ruled, but to the women who spoke. Please like this video and hit that subscribe button and join our YouTube family. Thank you for your support. New videos are coming very soon.